What a gorgeous hymn. I just love the words. So it was important for me, obviously, as a non-Muslim, to have the opening shared and reflected upon by someone who is a Muslim. And as I've shared with a few of you who joined earlier, Aydin is my dear colleague and interfaith colleague. He originates from Turkey and has spent many years here in South Africa in service to the community. He's also a teacher, and he and I have the great privilege of serving Cape Town Interfaith Initiative together, and we've done many activities in and around the city together. So it's my very great honor to introduce you to Aydin, and he's made a special sacrifice because this is the last day that he's sharing with his parents before they return home, leaving South Africa tomorrow. So I'm especially grateful for your time, Aydin. And if you could share with us some of your reflections on this beautiful sacred season that's shortly to be upon us. Thank you, Aydin.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pippa, and greetings. Good morning to all the friends in the US, and good afternoon to friends in South Africa. It's about almost 5 p.m. here in South Africa, and the weather is beautiful. So yeah, it's great to be with you, and thank you again for the invitation, and for allowing me to share a few thoughts around Ramadan and around fasting. And as you might know, I'll maybe just place the concept of fasting and Ramadan within the broader Islamic belief system. In Islamic belief system, there are certain articles of faith which requires you to accept and believe in certain things like the oneness of God and existence of the angels and the hereafter and the books and the prophets, etc. There are 6 articles like that. And then there are 5 articles which are compulsory to all the Muslims to practice. And those 5 articles include 1, declaration of faith, and performing your daily prayers, and giving your alms once a year, calculating your wealth and giving a certain percentage, and also fasting. Fasting is one of those 5 pillars. In other words, if you want to call yourself a practicing Muslim, that's one of the things you do. And fasting is done in the month of Ramadan, which is one of the 12 months in the lunar calendar, Islamic calendar. And lunar calendar, as I said, is 12 months, and it adds up to 355 days, which means every year Ramadan is 10 days earlier. So it revolves around the year, thank God, because that means we don't have to fast in the summer all our lives if we end up in a summer season. So yeah, that's one of the blessings. Ramadan, obviously, fasting in the Quran is being prescribed upon Muslims by a verse in the second chapter in the Quran, and the verse reads, I'll maybe paraphrase it. It says, the fasting has been prescribed upon you as it was prescribed upon those before you. So while God is asking us or telling us to fast, He is also reminding us that fasting was also practiced by those before us. In other words, He reminds us that as Muslims, you are not alone in terms of believers, in terms of those God calls believers. And obviously, He's referring here, God's referring to specifically Muslims and Christians because they were the ones known to the community then. But also, one would assume that whatever other religions that have been, or prophets or books have been sent by God to the communities, fasting has been part of their religion as well, because that's what the Quran says. And that is also, from one perspective, is a call for us to remember that we are not alone, and for us to remember that we need to make connections with the others. So as Pippa has explained, I live in South Africa. We are running an organization which also focuses on interfaith dialogue. And one of our big events for the year has always been the month of Ramadan. And while you also spend time on reflection, on prayer, etc., during the month of Ramadan, one of the things that we make sure we do is to reach out to others, is to reach out to our friends, both Muslim, non-Muslim, and ask them to come and share a meal with us, because fasting in Islam starts in the morning before sunset. We start fasting about an hour before sunset, and we fast until the sunset. So we don't eat or drink anything in that period. So, and in the evenings when we break fast, we have a meal. It's called iftar, and it's just a name. No, it's the normal meal, whatever meal that you enjoy. It's cereals or your your fast food or soup or whatever you want to enjoy. It's just a name given to the meal you have at that moment. So we invite our friends to come and share iftar with us, so that also while we practice our faith, it also helps us to make connections with the others and to build bridges and to share this experience with the others. So for us, Ramadan is about that. While it's a spiritual time period which is coming up, where we will have a chance to focus on ourselves, it's also a communal time for us as well. So we are excited that it's coming up. We're going to meet some friends which maybe we've only met last year in Ramadan. So we'll see them again. So that's what actually briefly it means for us. I hope that that gives a bit of a reflection from my side. Thank you, Pippa.
Thank you, Aydin. Obviously, I will see you before, but the traditional greeting, of course, is to say Ramadan Mubarak, a blessed Ramadan for you, but also enjoy your parents. I know we have to say goodbye to you now, but I'm sure I reflect everyone's gratitude for sharing with us. And thank you so much, Aydin. Blessings.
And I apologize, I have to go. Thank you so much.
No problem at all. We're grateful to you. Bye-bye. Lots of love. Thank you, everybody. And so it is. I want to post for you in the chat box the reading that I'm about to share. It's a poem by a British man who comes from Egyptian and Iranian, I believe, background. Let me just share his beautiful words with you and I'll explain why I chose it. Hopefully you can see it in the chat box. You wanted to be so hungry, you would break into branches and have to choose between the starving months, 19th, 21st, and 23rd evenings. The liturgy begins to echo itself. And why does it matter? If the groundwater is too scarce, one can stretch nets into the air and harvest the fog. Hunger opens you to illiteracy. Thirst makes clear the starving pattern. The thick night is so quiet. The spinning spider pauses. The angel stops whispering for a moment. The secret night could already be over. You will have to listen very carefully. You are never going to know which night's mouth is sacredly reciting and which night's recitation is secretly mere wind. This poem, according to Kazim, is celebrating the unknowability of the divine and the uncertainty with which one who is on this sacred month of waiting and praying and fasting and drawing close is experiencing. And this poem is talking about something which, for those of us who are not Muslims, probably won't really know or understand, but there is a night in the third week called, and I'm probably going to butcher the Arabic, but it's called Laylat, which means night, Al-Qadir, meaning night of power or majesty, which is believed to be the night the angel Gabriel first recited the Quran to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It is said that no one knows for sure exactly what night that was. They just have an indication or a suspicion that it's either the 19th or the 21st or the 23rd, the odd numbered dates in the last 10 days of the month. So as I said, his poem is playing with the uncertainty and the fundamental unknowability of the divine. And I love what he said in his comments. It's the unfixity. I don't even know if that word exists, but the unfixity of the divine. He said there could be no one day upon which anything is celebrated because, in fact, it's timeless. So in preparation for today, because I'm not a Muslim, but I am obviously being an interfaith minister, deeply interested in the tradition, and similar to Aydin, have so many friends for whom Islam is their tradition. So I wanted to honor it in a way that honored them, but also maybe inspired us. So allow me to share 5 things with you, and hopefully some of them will resonate, and as you'll see, are so familiar from the other traditions as well. I was reading an article which was actually written in 2020, and it said that it was written in a pandemic, reflecting on a time when Muhammad was alive, and that he too felt he was experiencing a pandemic. He referred to what it felt like to live in a time that felt toxic, and there was inhumanity, humankind's inhumanity to humankind, that he was surrounded with injustice and chaos. And the person writing the article, of course, was writing it during lockdown, and was reflecting that he, in his writing of his article, was remembering that Muhammad, of course, was sitting in a cave, sitting himself also in isolation, surrounded by what he felt was a pandemic within society. And he received his first revelation in the lunar month of Ramadan, as Aydin has shared with us earlier. So Ramadan is essentially a time of revisiting the origins of the tradition and of Islam. Now, in my search and in my interest, I discovered that Ramd, which R-A-M-D, means in Arabic, the burning of the sun. And so one can take that as an indication that this is a time of burning. So I dug a little deeper and wondered, well, to someone for whom this is their tradition, a burning of what, I wondered. And as I began to read, I realized that it felt like, in a way, it was a burning of 2 things. It was a burning of one's physical attachments, because as Aydin said, and many of us know, those who practice during Ramadan don't even allow a single piece of water to pass their lips from sunrise to sunset, which is easy when you're living perhaps in a hemisphere where it's winter and the days are short, but when they're long and you're living somewhere like Saudi Arabia, I can imagine that understanding of what that means, the burning of one's physical attachments. And as we know in many of the traditions, including Buddhism, is about non-attachment and a distancing from one's needs. And then, of course, as I dug, I realized it's not just the burning of the physical, but it's the burning of the soul, the yearning that many of humankind feel for that connectedness with the divine, whatever form or expression that may take, the burning, the yearning of our souls. So it's a reminder that Ramadan is not just a ritual or something almost, it sounds almost punitive in a way, but it's a remembrance and it's an engagement with life itself. The need, the suffering, the joy, the remembering. And then, of course, as Aydin touched upon, when one isn't eating and one is sacrificing, one is brought into an understanding of what it feels like and to remember one's hardship, not just in one's own life, but the lives of others and what's going on in the world. And I wanted to share with you a quote, and it goes like this. The Holy Prophet said that fasting is not simply averting one's mouth from food and drink. In fact, fasting also connotes abstaining from, get this, vain speech. And I know that you've been touching on that with Reverend Sonia over the last few weeks. So let me repeat that. It's not just fasting from food, but also abstaining from vain speech. In other words, avoiding foul speech, avoiding fighting, avoiding quarreling, and avoiding other vanities. Speaking less, therefore, is a part of Ramadan. Eating less, speaking less, sleeping less, and abstaining from all physical desires. All of these, says the author, is part of Ramadan. And it is, as Aydin said, a remembering of those who are suffering, who experience hardship on a daily basis, and whose lives perhaps not as prosperous or as safe as ours are. And I remember when I was teaching in Australia, one of my Muslim students had been going through a particularly hard time. And I think in the space of 2 weeks, he'd lost his home for a number of reasons. He was having issues with his visa, and his father had become very sick. And it was a time of great worry and stress for him and of great need. But he came to me at the end of class and he shoved into my hand a crumpled envelope. And he said, I don't have much at this moment, he said, but what I have, he said, I want to give. And he said, and you know more because you're working with those in need here in the city. He said, so please take this money and give to whomever you feel would benefit most. And I opened up the crumpled envelope and there was a significant amount of money that I knew would have helped him find a new place, or maybe even save to get a ticket to go home because he was so worried about his father. And in that moment, I experienced in a very visceral, very real way what that observance of Ramadan was, because at that time, of course, he was observing Ramadan. He wasn't eating or drinking, but it's not just that, of course, it's the material. And he wanted very much to use me as a conduit for the sharing of his material. And that stayed with me and has stayed with me through the years. The fourth thing I want to share with you is, as you may or may not know, Muhammad was married to a woman by the name of Khadija. And when Muhammad was in the cave in isolation, as I said earlier, aware of the pandemic and the chaos that was surrounding him. And he had received this first revelation and this first instruction, recite. And he had encountered the angel Gabriel. It said that he fled down the mountain and he ran still awestruck and recited the very, very, very first person that he told this had happened to was his wife. And he narrated the entire incident to her. And as he expressed his worry and his almost disbelief in what had just happened to him, she reminded him of this. She reminded him of the sacrifices that he had made in order to reach this point. And I'm going to quote directly. I believe it's from the book that is a commentary to the Quran. And it says this, the Hadith. It says, "You treat your kin with love. You are truthful and assist others in discharging their responsibilities and have gathered in yourself lost virtues. You are hospitable and a helper to others in the way of truth." And in this moment, what she was doing was bringing a union for him of not just the spiritual, but also the corporal, the very real, how he'd been living his life on a day-to-day basis. And in those moments, it is said that those two things combined. And it is this reminder that those two things should never be separated. The corporal, the real, the act of service, the, as I quote, being hospitable, being a helper of others, guiding others in the way of truth. That's also part of the spirit of Ramadan. And finally, the fifth thing I feel I best maybe not expressed in my own words, but I will read to you a direct quote. It's this. It's from a Muslim scholar. When one fulfills all the injunctions of Ramadan, this in essence is true taqwa. And taqwa, by the way, is translated as righteousness. This, he said, is in essence true taqwa. And this is the very purpose of Ramadan and fasting. When a person observes the fast and passes through the month of Ramadan with this objective and for this purpose, and does so with pure intentions, then this will not only bring about a temporary transformation, but rather it will also bring about permanent change. And he went on to say, change not only in ourselves, but as I said in the prayer earlier, permanent change in us brings permanent change to those around us, including in our world. So Ramadan contains the spirit of the taqwa, the righteousness of service and love to oneself and to others. Thank you, everybody. As usual, I know that either Michael or Sonia will be able to post a link if you would like to continue to serve the community in a way that enables us to have these services, especially the in-person ones that you have once a month. So thank you for sharing the link to the offering plate, and thank you for all that you offer this community and all that you do to make today and all the Sundays that we share together possible. It's always, always such an honor and such a privilege to share this time with you, and also in my own heart to connect my two worlds, to have Anne and Nic present with us. Sonia, of course, spent some time with them when she was here, and just to have us all gathered together on the cusp of this coming sacred season. So with that, I would like to take Khadija's words and turn them into a benediction and blessing for you all. May you treat your kin with love, and may we all treat our kin with love. May we be truthful. May we assist others in the discharging of their responsibilities. May we gather unto ourselves all of our lost virtues. May we be hospitable, and may we be helpers to others in the ways of truth. Amen.
If you like this video, please like us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click on the bell to be notified whenever we post a new video. Thank you.